Chapter 18. Underscore. At night, the world changes. The winds speak in different tongues. The walls of your home, thin as paper, no longer shield you as they once did. And in the quiet, in the deep hours when even your shadow seems to fall asleep, something waits. It does not knock. Je pense. It does not call your name. It waits for you to invite it. Through a single, simple act. Eating what should never be touched after dark. You see, food is not only for the body. It is an offering, a signal, a beacon, and those who roam the unseen world, they recognize that signal when you do not. Tonight, I will tell you what must never cross your lips when the sun falls away. Not out of fear, but out of respect for the silent war around you. A war you were born into without ever being told. Underscore. Food is not just physical, it's spiritual. We live under the grand illusion that food is merely nourishment for the body, calories to burn, pleasures to enjoy, moments to savor. But ancient wisdom, the kind hidden in forgotten scrolls and whispered in the oldest villages of the world, tells another story entirely. Food is energy. Food is a transaction. Every bite you take does not simply build your muscles or quench your hunger. It sends out vibrations into the unseen world. Vibrations that call, vibrations that invite, vibrations that sometimes unknowingly summon. In the daylight, when the sun is high and the world thrums with life, these vibrations are washed away, muted by the noise and movement of the living. But at night, when the world falls into a deeper silence, every act becomes louder in the spirit realm. Every choice becomes heavier, and food, the very substance you allow inside your body, becomes more than just a choice. It becomes a declaration. To the unseen, to those forces that walk the edges of human understanding, what you consume is more than just a meal. It is an open gate, a ritual you participate in without even knowing it. You think it is harmless when you stand by the refrigerator door at midnight, half asleep, letting your hands fumble for something sweet, something easy, something comforting. But there is no act more revealing of your spiritual state than what you choose to consume in the hours of darkness. The witches of old knew this better than anyone. They did not always need spells, potions, or chants. Sometimes all they required was a simple temptation placed quietly on your path. A food designed to weaken your spirit's natural defenses, to lower the threshold that separates your soul from the vast, hungry unknown. Consider it carefully. Your body slows down at night, your heart beats softer, your mind drifts into the subconscious. Your spirit, untethered from the strict vigilance of the waking mind, becomes more vulnerable, more open to suggestion, more easily swayed by things that by day would never dare come close. This is why, in so many traditions, fasting through the night was not simply a health habit, it was a spiritual safeguard. They understood that the mouth is a gate and food is an offering, whether you intend it or not. By eating thoughtlessly in the late hours, you offer a piece of your attention, your will, your strength, to whatever stands silently beyond the veil, waiting for your guard to fall. It is not the food itself that holds power, it is the timing, the consciousness behind it, the thinness of the hour in which you partake. Some foods carry heavier vibrations than others, heavy sweets, over-processed snacks, meats soaked in blood and hastily prepared under fluorescent lights. These are not merely poor choices for your health. Spiritually, they are reckless acts. They cloud the mind, dull the instincts, weigh down the soul just when it should be most alert. They create spiritual noise, distort the inner voice that whispers warnings. And in that distortion, darker things find the space to slip through. In folklore across continents, witches have long been described not as creatures of great physical strength, but as masters of influence, masters of finding the cracks in the human soul. They do not kick down doors, they wait for the door to be left ajar. They wait for hunger, for laziness, for indulgence, to whisper louder than wisdom. When you eat carelessly in the deep night, you leave the door ajar. You do not need to chant their name, you do not need to summon them deliberately. You summon them through forgetfulness, through an undisciplined spirit, through a weakened vibration that hums out into the silent dark. I am unguarded. The modern world mocks such ideas, dismissing them as superstition, as fear-mongering from simpler times. But ask yourself, why do you sometimes wake after certain nights feeling more tired than before you slept? Why do nightmares sometimes creep closer when your last meal was heavy, rushed, consumed without thought in the small hours? Why does a sense of unease sometimes settle around homes where nighttime indulgence is a daily ritual? These are not coincidences. These are symptoms. Symptoms of an unseen life that runs parallel to yours, always watching, always listening, always waiting. There is a sacredness to night that demands respect. The wise understood it. They fasted through the dark hours. They whispered prayers instead of chewing mindlessly. They closed their mouths not out of hunger, but out of reverence for the unseen battles raging just beyond their sight. They understood that their strength by day was decided by their discipline at night. In every culture where spiritual clarity was prized, the night was treated with caution, with humility, with a recognition that not all that walks the earth walks by sunlight. So next time you find yourself reaching for that harmless little snack at midnight, pause. Ask yourself, is it your hunger calling you, or something else? Is it truly your need, or a silent invitation being answered without your conscious consent? Protect your nights, guard your spirit, for what you allow into your body after the sun has fallen is not just food, it is a covenant, signed without ink, felt without sight, binding without a single word spoken. Dark energies exploit the careless. The world we see with our eyes is but a thin curtain over the true landscape of existence. Beyond the familiar shapes of trees, streets, and faces lies a deeper terrain, a place of currents unseen, forces unnamed, movements that brush against the edges of human awareness without ever fully revealing themselves. In this hidden realm, intentions matter more than appearances, and weaknesses are read more clearly than words. Dark energies, those ancient, restless forces that have fed upon the mistakes of mankind for millennia, do not break down walls or force their way into fortified hearts. No, they are far more patient, far more precise. They exploit the careless. They search for those tiny cracks in a person's spirit, the small, almost invisible moments of laziness, thoughtlessness, and unguarded living, and through those cracks they seep in like mist under a door. Carelessness is the invitation they seek. It is not a grand betrayal, not an obvious crime against your own soul that they watch for, but rather the small, repetitive choices made without thought, the undisciplined appetite, the casual surrender of vigilance, the mindless eating at an hour when your spirit is meant to be resting, rebuilding, standing watch over your inner fortress. In the lore of the old world, witches did not need to break into your home physically to do their work. They needed only to find you spiritually disheveled, your defenses lowered, your habits careless, your awareness dulled by indulgence or distraction. It is said they walked invisibly into the lives of those who had already opened the door themselves. who had prepared the table for them without even knowing it. Imagine it. You sit late at night, the only light in the room a cold artificial glow. The house is silent, but the silence does not comfort you. It presses against you, heavy, uneasy. You reach for something sweet, something that will drown out the stillness, fill the void for just a moment. And in that simple act, reaching without thought, consuming without prayer, indulging without restraint, a signal is sent, not a signal of strength or vigilance, but of vacancy. A signal that tells the unseen, here is a soul adrift, here is a spirit momentarily untethered from its own discipline. Here is a place where entry is possible without a fight. Dark energies, like the witches of old, are not attracted to strength. They are drawn to weakness, to moments of blindness, to habits formed in the absence of reverence. They are drawn to a body that treats itself like a machine instead of a temple, to a soul that forgets it must be guarded most carefully when the world sleeps. They listen for the silence of forgotten prayer. They smell the spiritual decay of unexamined indulgence. They wait until the gatekeeper, you, turns away from the door, if only for a moment. Then they move, swift and silent, requiring no grand invitation, no formal ceremony. Your carelessness is enough. This is why, in the wisdom traditions of so many ancient peoples, there were strict rules about eating at night. It was not simply for physical health, though that was often a happy consequence. It was to preserve spiritual clarity, to avoid becoming heavy and sluggish at an hour when the spirit must be light and alert. It was to prevent the dulling of instinct, the erosion of the inner alarm system that might otherwise awaken you to unseen threat. Every bite taken at the wrong time, in the wrong spirit, could layer another sheet of fog over your senses, could deaden another nerve that might have sensed danger approaching. Modern life mocks these ancient practices. It teaches you to live constantly entertained, constantly fed, constantly busy, without ever pausing to ask why stillness once mattered so much, why fasting was seen not as deprivation but as a form of spiritual armoring. In the old world, a person who could not control their appetites at night was seen not merely as undisciplined but as exposed, vulnerable, a likely target for forces that thrived on such weaknesses. Witches and dark energies were believed to mark these individuals, to hover close, waiting for the cumulative effect of small, careless choices to ripen into a full breach, a complete entry into the life of the unguarded. It is important to understand, exploitation by dark energies rarely looks dramatic at first. It begins subtly, with disrupted sleep, with strange moods, with rising irritability or sadness that seems to have no clear source. Over time, the unguarded soul becomes a nest for forces it does not recognize, carrying burdens it cannot name, fighting battles it does not understand. All because it left the front door unlatched through acts so seemingly harmless, so mundane, they were never questioned until the consequences became too large to ignore. You are not powerless in this war, but neither are you invincible by nature. Power comes through vigilance, through intention, through remembering that every act matters, that no choice is too small to carry spiritual weight, especially at night, especially in the sacred hours, when the world softens and the hidden world draws near. You must live as if every gesture, every bite, every word spoken or withheld is a shield being raised or a gate being lowered. There is no middle ground. You either feed your vigilance or you feed your vulnerability. You either close the door firmly each night with discipline and prayer, or you leave it swinging in the cold, dark wind, inviting in whatever happens to be passing by. Understand this truth deeply. Darkness needs no permission, louder than your forgetfulness. And it is the careless, not the cursed, who fall first. Sweetness is not always innocence. There is a dangerous myth woven into the very fabric of our daily lives, one that teaches us that sweetness is always safe, that what pleases the tongue must surely bring comfort to the soul. It is a lie that has persisted because it feels good, because it whispers to the hungers within us that there is no cost to indulgence, no danger behind the sugar-coated veil. But history, both spiritual and human, has always told another story for those willing to listen. Sweetness has often been the most powerful disguise evil ever wore, the softest glove over the coldest hand. It is not the sharp, bitter things that most easily undo a soul. It is the gentle, tempting sweetness that beckons without warning, that invites surrender without a fight, that makes you believe you are safe when you are already marked. In the practices of witches and dark craftsmen throughout ancient cultures, sweetness was not merely a tool of taste, it was a weapon of spiritual confusion. It was used to lower defenses, to mask the presence of something much more sinister waiting behind the pleasurable facade. Honeyed treats, sugared wines, spiced cakes. These were offered not just to entice the mouth, but to cloud the mind, to smother the spirit's natural instincts beneath layers of indulgence and distraction. They understood what modern minds have forgotten. When the body is pleased without discernment, the spirit sleeps without protest. And a sleeping spirit is an undefended spirit. You must understand that what you consume is not just about physical digestion. It is about spiritual absorption. Food enters your bloodstream, yes, but its energy enters your being. Sweetness at night, especially the heavy, processed sweetness crafted without life or prayer, acts as a silent lullaby to your inner watchman. It tells the guardian within you, all is well, rest now, even when danger stirs at the threshold. It fools the senses, quiets the alarms that might otherwise have stirred you to vigilance. And in that false peace, energies that have no place within you find the gap they seek. Many have wondered why nightmares often follow a night of indulgence, why uneasy dreams and restless sleep seem more common when heavy, sugary foods are taken after the setting of the sun. This is not simply a biological reaction, not merely the result of a body working too hard to process unnatural substances. It is spiritual dissonance. The heavy sweetness clogs the natural flow of energy within you, like sticky sap trapping a living branch, making it impossible for your soul to move freely, to defend itself, to ascend into the higher realms of true rest. Instead of rising during sleep, your spirit is weighed down, left vulnerable to forces that prey upon the slow, the dulled, the unguarded. Throughout the traditions of wise people, fasting at night was not born from ascetic cruelty, but from a deep understanding of the spiritual battlefield that unfolds as the world sleeps. To fast was to stay light, agile, awake in the places that mattered most. Especially when consumed carelessly after dark, was seen as an anchor, a trap disguised as pleasure. It pulled the soul downward, tethering it to lower planes where darker entities roam more freely, seeking whom they might touch, whom they might tempt, whom they might torment without resistance. You may think, what harm could there possibly be in a simple, sweet, a soft dessert taken quietly in my own home? But in the spiritual world, intention and timing transform small acts into monumental consequences. Eating that sweet in the harsh light of noon, surrounded by life and movement, is one thing. Eating it alone at midnight, when shadows stretch longer and silence hums louder, is another matter entirely. The act becomes a ritual of surrender, a silent turning away from vigilance toward vulnerability, a quiet invitation whispered through the language of habit. Understand, too, that darkness is not impatient. It does not demand that you fall in a single night. It is content to work slowly, layering one indulgence atop another, weaving small compromises into a net that only tightens over time. A sweet tonight, a forgotten prayer tomorrow, a surrender of discipline the next day. Each thread seems harmless alone, but together they form a binding strong enough to drag even the mightiest soul into places it never meant to go. And always, the descent begins the same way, with a moment of thoughtless sweetness swallowed in the depths of the night. The modern world, with all its distractions and its endless comforts, laughs at such warnings. It tells you that to deny yourself is to live less fully, that caution is fear, that indulgence is freedom. But true freedom does not lie in surrendering to every urge that rises within you. True freedom is the ability to say no, to choose discipline over desire, to guard the gates of your soul, even when the world tells you there is no danger. True freedom is found in vigilance, in remembering that not every sweet thing is innocent, not every comforting bite is without consequence. The choice is yours alone. No one can force you to guard your spirit. No one can compel you to wake from the dream of easy pleasure. You must choose to see. You must choose to understand that sweetness, while beautiful in its rightful time and place, can also be the softest chain, the most velvet-lined prison. And you must choose, especially at night, to resist the lullaby of false comfort that dark energies use to slip past your gates. For once you fall asleep at your post, once you forget that not all sweetness is harmless, it may be a very long journey back to freedom. Timing is a silent weapon. There are battles you can see and battles you cannot. But the most dangerous weapons are often those wielded in silence, hidden beneath the ordinary movements of life, unnoticed until their effect is irreversible. Timing is one such weapon, a force so subtle, so deeply embedded in the rhythm of existence, that most live their entire lives without ever realizing how profoundly they are being shaped, influenced, and even attacked through it. It is not just what you do that matters, it is when you do it. And those who dwell in darkness, those who wait for cracks in the soul to appear, know this better than anyone. They do not always come roaring into your life with chaos and noise. Often, they come at the wrong time, when you are weakest, when the doors of your spirit creak open without a sound, when you mistake vulnerability for peace and surrender for rest. The night has always been a sacred, fragile frontier between two worlds, the world of waking life and the world of dreams, the tangible and the intangible, the seen and the unseen. Ancient traditions understood that nighttime was not merely an extension of the day, but an entirely different battlefield. In the deep hours when the sun has retreated and human activity softens to a whisper, other things begin to stir. It is in these hours that timing becomes a weapon most effectively used. The energy around you changes, the walls between worlds thin, and your spirit, tired from the burdens of the day, naturally relaxes its guard. And it is precisely in these moments that careless actions, thoughtless indulgences, and weak choices carry consequences far greater than they would under the noonday sun. Those who move through the spiritual realms, witches, dark energies, malevolent forces of all kinds, do not waste their strength fighting against the full armor of a guarded soul. They wait for the armor to loosen naturally, for the heartbeat to slow, for the mind to slip from sharp vigilance into the soft fog of weariness. They wait for night, They wait for you to forget that the stillness of midnight is not empty, but alive with presences that do not always mean you well. They wait for you to eat what you would not eat in the harsh light of day, to indulge when you would otherwise restrain yourself, to fall asleep with your spirit unguarded and your body heavy with the wrong kinds of offerings. They wait because timing is the blade that cuts deepest when the victim never sees it coming. Every hour holds its own kind of energy. Dawn is renewal, midday is action, evening is reflection. But midnight and the hours that follow belong to the unseen. These are not times for careless consumption, for noisy indulgences, for thoughtless openings of doors that should remain firmly closed. In these hours, every action is amplified. Every careless choice sends out a vibration louder than any daytime indulgence ever could. To eat heavily in these hours is to weigh your spirit down when it should be rising. To feed on unnatural things, processed foods, excessive sweets, hurried meals born of restlessness rather than need, is to offer your vitality as a feast for forces that thrive on the slow decay of human strength. The wise ones, the guardians of old, those who kept their spirits sharp even as their bodies aged, knew this well. They treated nighttime like a sacred ceremony. They prepared their bodies with fasting or light prayerful nourishment. They prepared their homes by quieting the noise, extinguishing unnecessary lights, speaking blessings into the dark rather than curses or idle complaints. They understood that timing was a force that could work for them or against them. To act rightly at the wrong time was still to invite defeat. To be careless at the right time was to open the gates wide for things that could take years to dislodge, if they could be dislodged at all. Modern life has severed most people from this understanding. We are taught to live the same way at 2 a.m. as we do at 2 p.m., as if there is no difference, no shift in the fabric of reality as the sun rises and falls. But time is not uniform. Energy flows differently through the hours, and to ignore that is to fight battles with the wrong weapons at the wrong moments. The late-night snacking, the indulgent feasting while staring into blue screens, the restless consumption of heavy foods when the body and spirit are asking only for stillness and release. These are not harmless habits. They are rituals of surrender, performed unconsciously, but no less powerful for their ignorance. There is a reason the great disciplines of the spirit emphasize not just what you eat, but when you eat, not just what you say, but when you speak, not just what you pray, but when you lift your voice. Timing shapes destiny. Timing seals fate. A prayer whispered at the right hour can part seas within your soul. A careless act at the wrong hour can bind you in chains you never intended to forge. Every moment holds a hidden door, and every door swings open more easily at certain times. You must learn when to stand guard, when to fast, when to feed, when to speak, when to fall silent. You must learn that timing is not neutral. It is a silent weapon, sometimes for you, sometimes against you, and those who watch from the shadows are masters of its use. Understand this. Discipline is not merely about denying yourself pleasures. It is about mastering the flow of time itself, riding its currents rather than drowning in them. At night, when the world sleeps and the spirit world wakes, your smallest choices either align you with the forces of light or expose you to the hunters of the dark. And the hunters, patient and silent, know that it is not the strength of their assault that matters most. It is the timing of your surrender. Protect your table, protect your soul. Throughout history, the table has been more than a place of nourishment. It has been an altar, a battlefield, a meeting ground between the physical and the spiritual. What you place upon your table, how you approach it, when you sit before it. These are not merely matters of habit or convenience. They are matters of profound spiritual consequence. To the ancients and to those who have kept the old wisdom alive, the table was not just wood and stone. It was a sacred space where offerings were made daily, either consciously or unconsciously, to the forces that govern human life. In times when men and women still remembered the unseen currents that flow through every act, the table was protected fiercely, cleaned carefully, approached with gratitude and reverence, never carelessly, never with the casual indifference that fills so many homes today. Your table is a reflection of your inner life, and what is allowed to gather upon it, both in the form of food and in the spirit with which that food is offered and consumed, speaks volumes to the unseen watchers. To eat thoughtlessly, to pile the table high, with indulgence born not of gratitude but of boredom, fear, or gluttony, is to lower the defenses of your spirit. It is to transform a sacred ground into common soil, trampled by any wandering force that happens by. It is to invite in the hungry shadows that circle every unguarded feast, drawn not merely by the food itself, but by the energy with which it was summoned and consumed. Protecting your table is not a matter of superficial tidiness or aesthetic beauty. It is a defense of your spiritual sovereignty, a shield against the invisible siege laid daily against the unwatchful. When you sit to eat, you do not merely nourish your body, you enter into a silent dialogue with the forces of life and death. Every bite is either a declaration of discipline or a confession of defeat. Every meal is either a fortification of the soul or a weakening of its walls. In ancient households, prayers were said not only before meals, but during the preparation of food, during its serving, and even after the meal had ended. The act of eating was surrounded with ceremony, not out of empty superstition, but out of deep, hard-earned wisdom, that the forces of corruption and decay are always looking for an opening, and the table, so close to the core of daily life, is one of the easiest points of entry. Consider this. When you eat late into the night, when you load your body with heavy, processed foods that offer no true nourishment, when you allow your table to become a dumping ground for mindless consumption, you are not just harming your health. You are declaring to the unseen world that you are asleep at your post, that the gates of your life stand open and unwatched. You are showing the hunters of the dark that there is no discipline here, no vigilance, no awareness of the sacredness of the act of taking sustenance. And they respond, as they always have, moving into the spaces where discipline has withered, where reverence has been replaced by laziness, where gratitude has been smothered by endless craving. The first step in protecting your soul is to protect your table. This means more than just choosing better foods, though that is important. It means reclaiming the sacredness of the act itself. It means sitting down to eat with full awareness, offering gratitude for what lies before you, refusing to eat when your heart is restless or your spirit is clouded in the ways everything flows. It means preparing your food with intention, with a steady mind, understanding that the energy you infuse into the meal will be taken into your body and carried into every cell, every thought, every breath. It means refusing to make your table a place of chaos, of hurriedness, of distraction. No phones, no television, no aimless scrolling or arguing or venting of frustrations. Your table must become again what it was always meant to be, a guarded place, a place of light, a place where the energies of life are welcomed and the energies of death are kept at bay. In the old ways, the table was often blessed before the meal began and again after it ended. Bread was broken with care, shared as an act of unity, a reminder that every bite was a gift, not a rite. Today we must find new ways to live out these old truths. A simple moment of silence before eating, a whispered prayer of thanks, a conscious choice to eat only what truly nourishes rather than what merely distracts. These small acts are powerful beyond measure. They build a shield around your home that no dark force can easily penetrate. They declare to the unseen that here is a soul who remembers, a soul who watches, a soul who guards what is sacred. And you must especially protect your table at night, when the world falls quiet and the veils grow thin. What you eat after sunset matters far more than you have been taught to believe. It is not merely about digestion or sleep quality, though those are real concerns. It is about what you allow into your spirit at an hour when your defenses are naturally lowered, when the gates between worlds stand half open. A table guarded by discipline, gratitude, and intention becomes a fortress of light in the gathering dark. A table abandoned to careless indulgence becomes a breach in the walls, a place where things you would never willingly invite are given silent permission to enter. Protect your table, and you will find yourself stronger, clearer, freer than you have ever been. Let your table become once again a sacred place, a place of remembrance, a place where your soul is fed as surely as your body. In doing so, you will reclaim a power that most have forgotten but that still waits, quietly, patiently, for those brave enough to remember it.